Alright guys, you ready?
Yep.
Lock and load, Dixon, lock and load. Vibrate door. Yeah. Yeah, got that one.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And you are coming to you live from the WBGR Sports Network on WBGRsports.com and on the WBGR app, which is available on both iTunes and Google Play. Plus, you can watch us live on Facebook Live on the Experience Hockey Talk and the WBGR Sports Network Facebook pages. And, of course, also, we encourage your phone calls as I read this backwards. 301-429-9247. That is 301-429-9247 as I double check.
Yep,
Yeah, I did that right. Hey, good job, Mike. You could read backwards. And Bernie. Wow, this week. Just to, forget what happened last week.
Now,
This week.
the last 72 hours, Mike.
Yes.
The last 72 hours has been like, okay, this is gonna be an awesome thing to dive into. Then another thing happens. Then the expansion draft. Then the awards. Then a trade.
And then Chicago doing all these trades
trade.
that doesn't help out their salary cap situation at all.
Then another trade.
Good morning, Chris.
Then re-signings. Then more trades.
Oh, whoa. And we just got a trade just announced on our Facebook Live on the Experience Hockey Talk.
We did say
Christopher Vasilis just told us, morning, guys, just announced Travis Hamonic is going to the Calgary Flames. Welcome to the Experience Hockey Talk. We have a trade automatically announced right at the
breaking
beginning.
news. We need a breaking news gimmick, Dixon, eventually.
Actually, I do have okay, so funny story while we're on it. When this show debuted as a podcast, when I did the news and notes as its own segment on the show, we actually did have a news music sound effect play before going into the news and notes.
I'll tell you right now, I actually got the live draft tracker on my phone right now, and there is a possibility we might have Washington Capitals draft pick by the time we sign off. They are just starting round 3 already. You want to talk about cooking and booking through the second round?
Oh, well, the second through 7th rounds, they're always done so quickly.
Like 3 hours, you blink, you missed it. So, first of all, thank you, Lionel Green, for always giving us the opportunity to bring Hockey Talk the way it should be brought to you every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. And Dixon is on the controls today, so we are flying high with a first-class crew as always. So
Dixon's back. After getting me sick this past weekend, I might add. Thank you, Dixon.
So I guess we start with the 31st team in the National Hockey League actually getting a roster we can actually look at and analyze.
Yes, and as anyone who watched on Tuesday when my illness was worse and I was trying to kill Dixon at the same time, I only got 5 names right on my mock draft.
Well, you got to think, there are ties to George McPhee when he was with the Capitals. Cody Eakin was drafted by George McPhee.
And Eakin was one of my picks.
Mm-hmm. Nate Schmidt, was more and more no surprise, although Grubauer, both of them were George McPhee picks, or George McPhee picks / signings out of college for Nate Schmidt out of the University of Minnesota. So it's a dynamic that has been... I would have gotten Derek England just because of Las Vegas ties, being from Las Vegas, and he already signed his deal.
1 year contract.
He was an RFA. He's like, I'm looking forward to playing at home where I don't have to worry about moving to Las Vegas. I live in Las Vegas already, and I think him and of course Marc-Andre Fleury, they talked about last night during the draft that the cheer that he got when he walked out in that Vegas Golden Knights jersey rivaled many home playoff games. They said it was that loud in T-Mobile Arena, and that place is going to be crazy to see a hockey game this year. That place is going to be crazy lit October 10th when the Coyotes come calling for the first time. So, but yeah, I mean, there are no real big surprises. I mean, like I said, I mean, you see guys like Braden McNabb and Jason Garrison. I think it was 13 defensemen. They took.
Yeah, they took 13 defensemen, 14 forwards, and 3 goaltenders. Which was actually funny because when they initially put in their list, they had 13 forwards, 14 defensemen, and 3 goalies, and they had to switch a defenseman over to be a forward.
Well, crazy also is when we were talking about in the weeks leading up to it, Mike, we thought that they were going to get 5 or 6 goalies and play horse trader with the goaltenders. Now it seems as with all the defensemen they picked, and I could see Vegas being very active this week because they still have a couple of defensemen that could immediately help a team. I mean, I know Colin Miller's name's been thrown around a lot. He has a low-end contract that could be moved.
David Schlemko's already been traded to Montreal.
Yeah.
Trevor Van Riemsdyk, who I thought would have stayed with Vegas because he's a young guy, he's someone they could build around with a Nate Schmidt, was traded to the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yeah, I was thinking that was going to be a pair. Real shrewd move getting Shea Theodore thrown in by picking Clayton Stoner. You knew Anaheim was going to have to give up something tangible for them not to take Sami Vatanen or some of the other, or Josh Manson. They had to give up something like that. To give up another young stud like Shea Theodore, that's going to be a very interesting dynamic seeing him develop at the major league level with Vegas after jumping in during the playoffs with all the injuries Anaheim had and actually having a really good showing. So that's a very interesting team, and of course you never know what they're going to do. I mean, they have a little money they could play with probably in free agency to be able to round out the roster, maybe bring in a couple more veterans. I mean, all the draft picks they have, 3 number ones, which is unheard of for an expansion franchise, in the first 15 picks, no less. So it's and the jerseys were really, really nice. The gray with the
with white gloves.
So
they're going with white gloves.
I like it.
Explain to me how those are not going to get so scoffed up. Are they going to do what they did with the old Oakland Seals, where they dip it in paint just to make sure they stay nice and white?
Well, they'll have to get them some nose clips too, because I heard the paint fumes. The stories they talk about at the old Cow Palace, those paint fumes would take over the locker room like nobody's business. So definitely, and they weighed like 20 pounds more than a skate would usually feel on your foot. So, great. It was good to get through the expansion draft after probably vomiting most of the night with the awards part of the show. And, Pittsburgh
can we please
doing Pittsburgh
stop
funnies
with the garbage and get to why wasn't the draft done separately and then the awards done separately? Why do we have? First off, nothing against Joe Maglino. I liked him on True Blood. He's a good actor. But, bro, we want Ron McClain to do the awards. The guy is funny in his own right, and he's a hockey guy who people respect in the world of hockey. Let's get that guy, not some guy who's going to be a homer to the Penguins, which, by the way, I mean, still congratulations to the Penguins for winning the Cup. Yeah. But, having a guy be a homer to the Stanley Cup champions at the awards show doesn't sit right with a lot of people. Well, although the one bit with Bettman and Crosby was funny.
Although I was afraid he was going to put him in front of Holtby. I'm glad he put him behind Holtby. Or I was thinking he was going to tell Holtby to go back, but I think Braden's wife would have probably beaten Sydney up. That would have been must-see TV, actually.
But there's just so much like the band that opened the show was horrible. Like, they were not good at all. I mean, the bit with Iceberg was completely unnecessary. It was like a 3-ring circus. Just get the draft done, because you're going to have the fanfare with the draft anyways, and do the awards.
Well, the thing is...
and get the kid, the kid who gave out one of the awards, wasn't it past his bedtime?
Well, it was kind of funny that he comes out and says that he's a stressed out fan of the Vancouver Canucks for his entire lifetime of 10 years. So, but you're going to lose. I mean, if they did the draft and then they did the awards they probably lost half the viewers.
To be honest, I don't think anyone cares about the awards anymore.
I know, but I will say there was a couple really cool moments during the awards portion. Brian Bickle and his wife being up there. That story, I mean, everyone had sweat glands flowing from the eyelids on that one. And also Bobby Carpenter and Dana Lang. That story was very good. It was awesome for the NHL to highlight those two of the most heartwarming stories throughout the season on their award show and put that out there to see that. And also congratulations to Nick Foligno on winning. I think it was Craig Anderson won the Masterson. Another great moment there. But
okay, that's the thing. Okay, first off, the Dana Lang thing, and I actually saw this on Twitter, and I saw this from a lot of the NWHL writers. The thing with Dana Lang is now starting to get overplayed a bit. First off, do we wish that she gets well? Hell yes. We want Dana to get better. We would love to see her walk, let alone get back up on the ice. And her sister just signed with the Boston Pride. Her sister's a goalie. I don't have her name in front of me, so I apologize for that. But there does come a point where things get overplayed. And this is one of those points where it's kind of getting overplayed a little bit. We kind of got to take a step back, maybe give more of that spotlight to Brian Bickle and Craig Anderson, which they deserved, but you still got to maybe take a little step back. You can't make that always be the focus.
Well, I think that might have been the closure to the Dana Lang story, because they featured it on the NHL, on the NBC broadcast, but I think being able to put that out on the award show, because a lot of people don't see the pre-games or they go away for the intermissions. They don't see the features that they do at times about some of these great stories. So to be able to put it out there on the NHL award show,
smacking microphones,
and then making sure that probably will be closure for that topic, and be able to bring out Bobby Carpenter again on an NHL stage is not a bad thing.
Let's talk about, they brought out Bobby Carpenter. They also brought out Marcel Dion. And boy, was it awkward.
Yeah, I'd rather focus on the hockey end of things. I mean, it's a shame that comment was taken. And he knew what he meant by it, but the way it came out was not taken very lightly by many of the Twitterverse. Which
for the record, Marcel Dion, I have very nice legs too for myself, even though they're very hairy. So.
I think that might take over the number one seat on Vomit Bag over the Pittsburgh Penguins right about now. Let's segue into what was crazy about. Oh, one little fact about Marc-Andre Fleury. 14 years to the day he was drafted the number one pick in the NHL draft. He gets picked by the Vegas Golden Knights to be their face of their franchise between the pipes. So that was a very interesting little tidbit there. But just seeing how Vegas cultivated all these assets leading into the draft.
And the one thing that was surprising is they only picked 3 goalies. Now, look at some of the goalies that they got. They got Calvin Pickard from Colorado, who was an okay backup behind Semyon Varlamov, but at the same time, we'll be willing to give him the benefit of the doubt because Colorado as a whole was just a mess anyways this past season.
Plus, I'll say we talked about when Grubauer had that lights out performance against Team Canada in the World Championships. Calvin Pickard was the number one goalie for Team Canada in those World Championships. So we said Gerard Gallant got a first-hand view of Grubauer for one game. He got a first-hand view of Calvin Pickard from the time he got off the plane to play for Team Canada. So that little intel that they had prior to the draft. But to your point, it was a little surprising they didn't go with 4 or 5 goaltenders and then maybe pawn one off to even get more assets.
And then the other goaltender was, where is it? J.F. Berube from the New York Islanders. And this is an interesting one because, the Islanders have been a mess in net all season long, doing that 3-goalie rotation with Thomas Greiss, Jaroslav Halak, J.F. Berube, all 3 of them have the same agent, which makes it even more awkward. But of course, in the J.F. Berube one, by the Islanders, or by Vegas selecting J.F. Berube, the Islanders sent over defenseman Jake Bischoff, forward Mikhail Grabovski, who's most likely going to be on long-term IR. I don't see the guy playing because of all the concussion issues.
Yep.
A 2017 first-round pick, and a 2019 second-round pick. So there was a lot involved with J.F. Berube going from the Islanders to the Vegas Golden Knights in this expansion draft.
And you saw the Islanders' unprotected list. You had Brock Nelson out there. You had Calvin DeHaan out there.
They had like almost all their defensemen unprotected. Or
They
no, all their
defensemen.
No,
which
correct.
is crazy.
They had almost all their forwards
Yeah,
unprotected.
they protected, I think, 5D.
They protected like 3 forwards in 5D, and I think they protected Grice as their goalie.
Yep.
And it was like mind blown. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, real quick, and I would definitely segue from the Islanders to the next bit of news, but also just a couple notable names. David Perron going from St. Louis, James Neal having a resurrection, so to speak, after a lukewarm season, regular season, having a really good playoff. I mean, he has a big contract, which helps them get to the floor. He's going to be able to add some number one scoring, as well as maybe being some of these guys could be assets at the trade deadline. And Mark Mathot, we talked about it before the show, how his no trade clause was kind of humorous, since everyone in the world thought he was going to get flipped to the Maple Leafs until...
Yeah, and then another thing is that if you look at Minnesota, Eric Holla goes from Minnesota to Vegas, but Vegas in return also gets Alex Tuck, and Minnesota gets the 3rd round pick in either 2017 or 2018. There's some conditions, I don't know about that, but also Columbus, you have William Karlsson going over in the expansion draft to Vegas, and in the trades part of that, you get David Clarkson, who's never going to play, just like Grabowski. Mm-hmm. That's a long-term IR person, and a 2019 second-round pick. And I think that second rounder in 2019 is specifically just to take David Clarkson off of their roster.
Because also remember, they got a first rounder, which they flipped to Winnipeg to get their first round, like a flip of first round picks as well. So it's definitely they did what Arizona couldn't do at the trade deadline when they got Martin Hansel. Vegas got one of Minnesota's 5 big prospects in Alex Tuck. So that's a definite, and they got, I think Eric Holla was an RFA. They got him locked up. So George McPhee definitely held the NHL 30 teams in the NHL hostage, so to speak, and definitely has made this team viable to be very well stocked for years to come.
And then not only that, but going back to that Columbus part, Winnipeg was involved in that trade too.
Mm-hmm.
Winnipeg, they lost Chris Thorburn in the expansion draft, and Vegas got a 2017 first round, a 2019 third round from Winnipeg, but Winnipeg got Columbus's 2017 first round pick, which initially went from Columbus to Vegas.
Mainly, Vegas moved up 9 spots from 24 to 15, so they were able to get 3 first-round picks in the top 15, like we covered at the beginning of the show, is unheard of. So,
all right. Well, real quick, we're going to end our expansion. We're going to go to commercial because we got trades. We got trades, and we got a signing that we got to talk about.
Huge signing.
So, and also, real quick, Stacey Jordan. Yes, I am the one commenting on the WBGR Sports Network thing. Have your friend who's a true hockey guy and a comedian, have him call in. It's 301-429-9247. Have him call in. We would love the calls. So, Dixon, take us to commercial break.
Restaurant is holding their annual Summer Pig Roast Weekend. Come to 12613 Wisteria Drive in Germantown, Maryland, and enjoy some amazing barbecue brought to you by the Dutch Family Restaurant. And as a special bonus, if you mention the Experience Hockey Talk, you'll get...
It's funny how just scrolling through like the picks, like every 3rd or 4th pick is Vegas.
Visit on Facebook today.
Tell me Vegas is going again?
By the way, this is how I'm going to play hockey tomorrow.
Pick 120.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Experience Hockey Talk, where Dixon missed the fact that when there's 10 seconds left, you turn on the microphone so I can talk while the music is still playing. Good job, Dixon. Everyone give him a round of applause. Nah, but seriously though, we want to thank the bands Crimson Orchid and I Shine for the music that you listen to before we start the show and when we come back from our commercial breaks. And
real quick before we get to the signing that we're going to talk about probably first, just got word about 10 minutes ago. TSN is reporting they're working out final details on the Hamonic to Calgary deal, so it's not a completely official deal yet.
Yeah, but let's talk about some trades first.
Okay.
Before we get into the signing. So we had the Chicago Blackhawks trade Nicholas Halverson to the Arizona Coyotes for Connor Murphy and
Laurent Dafont.
Yeah, Laurent Dafont. That does nothing for their salary cap woes. And then they traded Artemi Panarin to Columbus for Brandon Saad coming back, which was at the urging of Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews, because they missed having him in the lineup and in the locker room. They both have $6 million cap hits. That doesn't fix the problem in Chicago. And you have Marian Hossa, who is now out due to a skin infection allergy. And then you still have Marcus Kruger, who was initially supposed to go with Trevor Van Riemsdyk to Vegas.
Well, with the deal with Panarin and Saad, Saad has more years left on his deal. Plus, what Chicago was missing in that 4-game sweep of Nashville was someone to drive the net. Brandon Saad won 2 Stanley Cups with his team. He was an integral part of that second Cup team that he was involved with, and just being able to be in front of the net, getting those garbage goals, those loose goals. We talk about the simple goals, the loose goals, the garbage goals that win playoff games. Look at the game-winning goal for Pittsburgh to win the Stanley Cup. Just shoot it off the back of Pekka back into the back of the net. So it's just little things like that. Plus, also, they got a backup goaltender now since they shipped Scott Garling to Carolina. They got Anton Forsberg to back up Corey Crawford next year. With the Arizona deal, again, Chalmerson's 2 years away from unrestricted free agency. One of the better underrated top 4 defensemen in the league. He's going to be able to get a chance to mentor Oliver Ekman-Larsson even more and some of those young D that they got down there in Arizona. Plus, Connor Murphy's a guy that they see as being a young defenseman that can be that next guy to fill those.
But you want to know something though? It doesn't mean anything when you don't have the cap space, and that's what Chicago is having a problem with right now.
Well,
they have guys with Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews who went for the max amount of money that they could get. You have a guy like Brent Seabrook who has like a $7-point-something million cap hit. You have now a guy who's going to get put on long-term IR, Marian Hossa, with a $5.85 million cap hit, even though that will come off the books after day 2. You have Duncan Keith with a $5+ million salary cap hit. These cap hits, and then bringing in Saad was a $6 million cap hit. They didn't do anything to help themselves with their cap situation.
It's almost like they're looking down the road because, Panarin's going to be looking for some serious bank in 2 years. If there's one general manager that has been able to make the salary cap work, no matter how dire the circumstances, it's been Stan Bowman. And now remember, everyone, that you can go 10% over the cap in the off season. So there's a lot of wiggle room to maneuver, but the point you made with the IR with Marian Hossa is he can't technically go on LTIR until
October 5th. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So October 5th, he is allowed on it. Which, might I add, I am extremely happy that the NHL season is starting October 4th and not October 15th.
Yeah, no World Cup of Hockey this time.
No, even without the World Cup of Hockey, the season was starting on October 15th. The last time the season started on my birthday of October 1st was when they do the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
The NHL season should always be starting the first week of October.
Right.
No matter what. Because the NBA always starts the last week of October. It gives you that separation so the two leagues can kind of breathe on their own for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so happy. I'm just mad that they're on the road on October 1st for their last preseason game in St. Louis. Thanks, Caps.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're going to play mostly the minor league guys and guys that are trying to make the team on that night. So,
yeah. And then, of course, last night there was one trade in the draft that brought a lot of people's attention. One was the 29th pick the 31st pick that Pittsburgh had. They traded that to St. Louis along with Oscar Sundqvist for Ryan Reeves. Now, before the start of the Stanley Cup Finals, Jim Rutherford, the general manager of the Pittsburgh Penguins, came out and said that he wants to get some tough guys on his team, not like Tom Sestito, who can't play hockey at all, but tough guys who can protect Sidney Crosby. He picks up Ryan Reeves. Yeah, Ryan's a tough guy, but I think the guy wants to focus more on playing the game than trying to protect people.
And they brought that up on the NBC as well as the NHL broadcast wrap-up, is that he's worked on his game the last 12 to 18 months, realizing that I'm not going to have much more of a career if I don't make more of a concerted effort to make sure I have an extra half a step every so often skating, making sure I can work on the boards, making sure I have better puck handling ability in the corners where I'm going to be asked to use my big frame to make things happen for the skilled players that are going to be on my line in the fourth line, because you see a lot of these enforcers are starting to leave the game more and more. So it's going to be a very interesting dichotomy with Ryan Reeves being up in Pittsburgh. But there was actually thinking about trades, and we were talking about the Islanders.
Real quick, I want to hop on one thing. Tony commented, not too thrilled with the schedule of both Pittsburgh home games early, and I was hoping the game at Vegas would be in January during the week. Well, actually, the game in Vegas is actually on a Saturday, so you can still make the trip out to Vegas.
Christmas in Vegas.
But the thing I'm happy about, Vegas' first ever game in D.C., Super Bowl Sunday. And Dixon knows this. It's tradition for me, Super Bowl Sunday, because I don't watch the NFL. I go to the Caps game. That's my Super Bowl game right there.
Until my brother had a daughter to actually go with him the last couple of years. She's been going, but it used to be the brother's deal going to the...
So I actually don't have an issue. I'd rather get Pittsburgh out of the way quickly and not deal with them later on.
Yeah,
because Pittsburgh does have a history. If they're playing their division near the end of the season, or they're playing a team that they know that they're going to be facing in the playoffs, they get cheap, and they start taking cheap shots on guys.
I think more hilarious part of that schedule talk is not the two home games, but the two road games. One good thing is that that Joe Beninati and Craig Loughlin are actually going to be able to call a Pittsburgh game this year, since they're not all on Wednesdays and Sundays and any night that NBCSN shows the games. The two road games are on Groundhog Day and April Fool's Day. I don't know what kind of humor the NHL has doing that, but it's definitely an interesting twist on the Pittsburgh Capitals games.
And I agree. Yeah, the Vegas game is 2 days before Christmas, but they have been spending Christmas in Vegas.
I'm making plans right now.
Let's not be negative about this. Let's get positive. Hey, let's go to Vegas for Christmas. Let's do it. Let's make a plan. Hey. But also details of the Travis Hamonic deal is coming in. Details is that Calgary is getting Travis Hamonic and a 4th round pick. Calgary is sending to the New York Islanders a 1st and 2 second round picks for Travis Hamonic.
Well, they did say they wanted 2 number 1s. I think a 1 and 2 2s definitely is as good. Yeah. Because you can pawn those 2 2s up to get into the first round.
And that really shores up Calgary's defense.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, you look at that defense. They got Dennis Weidman, now Travis Hamonic, Dougie Hamilton, Mark Giordano. You know, that top 4 right there, that's pretty damn good.
Well, Weidman's on UFA.
So Weidman's UFA.
TJ Brody is...
Yeah, TJ Brody. That was the one I was trying to think of, yeah.
Yeah.
But still, that top 4 right there, that's pretty good.
And you have Oliver Shillington making his way into... I think he got his skates wet into the NHL pool a little late in the season with Calgary. He's a former late first-round pick. I think the Caps traded that pick to him.
Yeah.
So they have definitely drafted well, and with the young talent they have up front with Gaudreau and Monahan and Matthew Tkachuk, that's a team that's only going to get better going off of their late rise to get into the playoffs last year.
All right, and now we've delayed it long enough. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to talk about TJ Oshie, who yesterday signed an 8-year, $46 million contract with a $5.75 million cap hit per season. This is interesting because if you look at the Caps with contracts, you have Niskanen with 4 years left, Orpik with 2, Ovechkin with 4, Backstrom with 3. Oshie is in line to essentially be that new face, become the new face, and carry that for the next 8 years, especially when an Ovechkin contract expires, a Backstrom contract expires, although I see Backstrom getting re-signed after the end of his deal. And I can see the same with Ovechkin. But with Oshie, he now has the contract that supersedes Ovechkin. In your opinion, what does that mean for the Capitals and long term with Oshie?
Well, having TJ Oshie locked up for 8 years, you had to make to get the term of $5.75 million a season on the cap. He hits the open market. He's probably a $6.57 million player.
Maybe $8 million.
Maybe 8. Yeah, someone overpays 8.
I legitimately thought he was going to get 7 to 8 mil.
I mean, you get guys, and a lot of people have talked about the character of TJ Oshie, what he brings to a team, not only on the ice but off the ice. And now with the 2 kids, having that security of maybe giving back a little less term, a little less cap hit, AAV, to be able to get more security for his family. The details of the deal, he's getting paid $8 million next year.
Yep.
Even though the cap hit's 5.75, it ranges from $8 million this year all the way down to $4 with a couple peaks and valleys in the middle part of the contract, down to $4 million in the last year of the deal. But being able to have that anchor where he can set up shop at home, he can get his kids, now he can start worrying about where the kids are going to go to school. He doesn't have to worry about, in a couple of years I'm going to have to uproot him and go somewhere else. He can just worry about playing hockey. In the last couple of years, he's had his best 2 offensive years in the NHL playing with the guys like Ovechkin and Backstrom. So, and with the context of the rest of the contracts you were talking about, Kuznetsov's going to be another one that's going to be very interesting on what kind of a deal he gets.
Something tells me that McClellan's going to make a trade.
You have to.
Yeah, something tells me, my gut says that, and I agree with what Tony just posted and Shaggy just posted, which is that, this is a great signing for Oshie. It's a great cap hit. I mean, I know next month we're going to have the commissioner of the DCHL in here, Suds. He was bashing the signing.
He's the biggest Caps troll on Facebook.
Yeah, he's the biggest Caps. Let's put it that way. Yeah, he's the biggest Caps troll on Facebook. He's also an Islanders fan who's originally from Nashville, Tennessee. So we're trying to figure that one out still. Hi, Suds. We'll see you on July 22nd in here. But this is a great sign.
Got you all choked up.
Yeah, I know. It got me all choked up. That we're gonna have the DCHL commissioner who produces the DCHL League's Game Center TV show, which I host, which eventually one of those episodes that we taped will air. But he's saying it's a bad signing. Everyone else disagrees because keep in mind, we were all expecting if Oshie signed 7-8 mil a season, that would be the cap hit, 7-8 mil. Maybe 6.5, the lowest.
No lower than 6.
Yeah. It's 5.75. Mm-hmm. That's a really good cap hit for a good quality player like TJ Oshie. But I don't see them trading Gruby unless it's part of a deal to trade either Brooks Orpik or Marcus Johansson. Because Tony just posted saying I could see them trading Gruby. The only reason I could see them trading Gruby is if he's part of a bigger deal that sheds some salary, like a Marcus Johansson, like a Brooks Orr pick.
Well, I'll go back to and mention a trade that Russell probably had a very interesting thought about. Our good friend up at Full Tilt Rangers, they got talk about launching their show again. They got all sorts of news to talk about with their premiere episode.
Hey, last week, I mean, when I had him on, we were talking about the Dan Girardi buyout.
But to think that with Gruby's concerned, look what Antti Ranta was the deal he was a part of. He was part of a salary dump. Derek Stepan, who still got some weeks
left on his contract.
Some length in his contract. Some wheels. I was going to say wheels. Some length in his deal.
I like those 3-week contracts. Those are amazing.
That's right. But to have that contract with Ranta, and he got the number 7 overall pick in the draft, as well as a guy I'm really high on, in Anthony D'Angelo, New Jersey, Philadelphia product.
There's a problem with Anthony D'Angelo, though.
He's a little attitude, but he's got great skill sets.
He's got a great skill set, but his attitude is why he's never going to make it to the NHL. I mean, he was supposed to be a top 5 draft pick the year he was supposed to get drafted, and he fell in the draft because of racist comments that he said towards a teammate. And his father, okay, yeah, sure, your family's Italian, but you still have to conduct yourself in a professional manner, whether you're in juniors, whether you're in high school hockey, college hockey, whatever. It doesn't matter. If you think you can get away with saying racist things in the locker room to teammates, even if it's in a joking manner, and try to say it's acceptable because we're Italian, we get emotional and all this other stuff, it's unacceptable. And I see that's the biggest reason why D'Angelo may not have an NHL career.
Well, he played, I think, 30-some games with Coyotes this year. I think if
but
there's
a
any
long
place,
one.
If there's any place he's going to be able to get straightened out, to go into a locker room with Ryan McDonough and Mark Stahl, if that doesn't straighten him out, then I agree with you. His career will not be for much longer. But to have a guy that has a skill set that can constitute a top power play defenseman as well as a top 4 guy for a long term, talk about how great he stretches the game with his long passes from his own end to get his offense into great positions. I mean, it's a talent that you take your chance on, especially when you're sending a guy that's been a heart and soul type of player like Derek Stepan. Center ice and number 1B centermen are hard to come by, and to get a goaltender that you can bridge to Domingue and whoever else you're going to have playing goal for Arizona long term is a nice haul to bring back. And the kid they picked in the draft, Elias Anderson from HE71, is going to be a guy that could make the Rangers roster in a year or two.
Well, let me put this out there in regards to Anthony D'Angelo real quick. He fell in the draft 2 years ago to Tampa Bay, where there's Steve Yzerman, Steven Stamkos, and a couple other veteran guys like a Victor Hedman. They had issues with him, which is why they shipped him off to Arizona. In Arizona, you have Shane Doan. And I wouldn't be surprised if Shane Doan said, this kid ain't worth it. His attitude is not worth it. So, but real quick, we're going to go to our last commercial break. When we come back, we have a question from Brad on our TXHT Facebook Live. And guys, call in 301-429-9247. I'm doing really well reading that backwards. So Dixon, take us off to the break, good sir.
Trying to segue from when we talked about the expansion draft, segue into the Everton trade from the Islanders.
There's just,
I know.
We'll get to that early trade. It's like we got the question about a trade right there, so we can just use that as a segue.
Brad, I actually left my group for 48 hours. I was so pissed off with Brad. I work with Brad, but I was trying to tell him that you have to trade either Johansson or Reller.
like the evil stare of that.
Oh boy.
And ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Experience Hockey Talk, serious hockey talk for serious hockey fans. And real quick, I just want to throw this out there. Ladies and gentlemen, today is the last day of the Dutch Family Restaurant's pig roast weekend. And if you go there in Germantown, Maryland at 12613 Wisteria Drive in Germantown, you mentioned the show, you guys get $1 off the pork sandwich.
I think they're open till 3.
Yeah, they're open till 3 p.m. And it's like, and I went by yesterday and I asked them, like, hey, has anyone mentioned the show? How you guys doing? And then they said no one's mentioned the show. That hurts my feelings. So go to the Dutch Family Restaurant. Mention the show. Get $1 off on those pork sandwiches, guys. The pork sandwiches, as Bernie can tell you, are delicious.
They're very delicious, and I think we're going to be right up against whether the Caps pick before we sign off at noon. It's at pick 90 right now. We're at pick 120, so I think we're going to be getting a pick as we sign off or when Andrew signs on at 12:30. So. And
then real quick, call in 301-429-9247. We got people saying, hey, they want to talk hockey with us. Call in. You can't talk to us. I mean, yeah, you can message us on Facebook Live, but if you want to call in and ask us, call in and ask us. Don't say, hey, I'm thinking about calling in. Don't think, just do.
We only have 20 minutes, and if you call in now, you probably could take over the rest of the show. So.
Yeah, like we don't bite. Dixon bite, but we don't bite. Okay? So Brad, we got a question from him. There's only one team really in the goalie market. Trade Grubauer to the Flyers. Caps missed the boat moving Gruby to Arizona. Yeah, we missed the boat on Arizona, but there's another team that could actually use a goaltender, and that's Vancouver, because Ryan Miller is an unrestricted free agent. I don't know the contract status of Jacob Markstrom, but I do know that if they can get something better than Jacob Markstrom, they would definitely go for that. So you do have a I would put Vancouver in there even though they won't outright say it.
Plus, you never know what a team's looking for. They might see Grubauer as an upgrade. It all depends on what kind of a package you're going to be looking for. And like we were talking about during the break is with the Capitals. So I think we'll go into more probably next week before the free agent frenzy that happens as we sign off next Saturday. There'll be many, many millions of dollars going around to players that have earned the right to become unrestricted free agents next Saturday at noon. So there's going to be people like Marcus Johansson, Lars Eller. I think one of those contracts could be moved to give you a little bit of wiggle room salary-wise, as well as Brooks Orpik, same thing. I mean, there's $12 million that you can get about $8 million of that off of your cap and maybe bring back a couple of assets. You never know what you can do with the remainder of the off season. So there's a lot to be done, and there's a lot of guys in Hershey we need to see. We need to actually see if they're going to be sink or swim. I mean, one way to find out. Look at the Penguins; they've been able to put all those guys in from Wilkes-Barre. It's worked for them so far.
Yeah, and then just to throw this out there too, there was another trade that we haven't talked about yet, which is Jordan Eberle being traded by the Edmonton Oilers to the New York Islanders for Ryan Strome, and it going back to the DCHL Commissioner Suggs saying that this was a horrible trade for the Edmonton Oilers, which I have to disagree. I think the Oilers got the steal in this trade because putting Ryan Strome, who is a very young player, with other very great young players, is only going to rejuvenate him after being in the island for a while.
I think it's win-win because Jordan Eberle has played with John Tavares on the world stage. And it might entice John Tavares to stay in Long Island / Brooklyn for the long term. I did see that they are going to play a preseason game at Nassau, which is pretty cool. But and with Ryan Strome, piggyback on your comment, you're going to be able to put him correct me if I'm wrong, I think his brother Dylan played with Connor McDavid with the Erie Otters. So they have guys that can play. And I think we actually got the beck and call that someone is going to call in and actually talk hockey with us. Not text hockey, not Facebook hockey, but talk hockey.
All right, what's your name, bud?
Hi, I'm William Edwards.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
What you got, Will?
Oh, say that one more time.
What you got, William?
I'm Stacey Jordan's friend. He hit me up and told me that he tuned in and he said, "Hey, call in because they're big hockey fans and I'm a big hockey fan, especially a Caps fan." And I tuned in and I was having a little connection problems with the internet. But yeah, I wanted to call in, definitely talk hockey. I mean, it's my favorite sport right now.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, there's no hockey being played right now, but it's the greatest sport being played right now.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you being a Caps fan, what do you think of the TJ Oshie signing?
I think that was a great signing that we needed. I think that Oshie probably, I just heard you all talking about Oshie is probably going to be the new of the face for the franchise when as Ovechkin begins to wind down. But I think that was a sign that we definitely needed. And I also heard you all mentioning about if we trade Grubauer, we would have to package in Marcus Johansson or Brooks Orpik. And I definitely agree with, I would prefer Brooks Orpik to see Brooks Orpik go more than Marcus Johansson. But we can't seem to sign Marcus Johansson until a long-term deal. And so it will probably be best because we'll probably get more value back for him than Brooks Orpik at this point.
Well, not only that, but also, let's be honest, I mean, Marcus Johansson has a $4.5 million cap hit this upcoming season. And the other thing with him is that outside Game 6 against Toronto in the playoffs, he really hasn't shown much in the playoffs. So, you got to look at it like, yeah, regular season, he's a great player. He's like a 20-goal scorer, about 50 points. But that's not, to me, a $4.5 million a season guy. You need your $4.5 million guys scoring like 10, 15 goals, trying to get almost close to 30 points in the playoffs, as well as doing the 20 goals, 50 points in a regular season as well.
Yeah, I must say his growth hasn't been as, I guess, we needed. He's grown into a decent player, but at this point in his career, he's been surpassed, to me at least, by Burakovsky and Kuznetsov already, as far as production value or the upside to their production value.
Absolutely, William, and definitely thanks for the call. Please call in again another time, but I definitely agree with you on the Kuznetsov and the Burakovsky surpassing Marcus Johansson. This team really hasn't given him a definite role every year. 1 year it's a center, 1 year it's a left wing. We got another call there, Dixon. No?
Yeah.
But Marcus Johansson, it has value. I mean, he had career high in points and goals this year. He's going to be able to bring you back maybe a replacement for Carl Alsner to give you that fourth. Maybe you trade him to Minnesota for Brodin or Dumba.
And not only that, but this year should be the year, or this upcoming season, I should say, should be the year that not just Burakovsky gets top 6 minutes, but Tom Wilson gets top 6 minutes as well. Because, Wilson, I mean, and here's the thing. By signing Oshie, this pretty much all but rules out signing Justin Williams now. So
unless you move another contract.
Unless you move another contract like Brooks Orpik, or say you move Brooks Orpik and Marcus Johansson, then you can re-sign Justin Williams. But this should be the opportunity where Tom Wilson finally gets those opportunities to play top 6 minutes. And really, we saw a lot of greatness out of Tom Wilson in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. When he doesn't let that high energy get the best of him, where he's not just throwing himself around, and he's playing the game, and he's focusing on the game, the guy can be pretty deadly, especially when he has finish on his shots.
Let me throw you these two. Let me throw these top two lines at you and see what you think, Mike. You go.
I hate them both.
You go Kuznetsov with Ovechkin and Oshie, who was one of the best lines in hockey in October when Backstrom was recovering from his injury 2 years ago. And then you put Backstrom with Burakovsky and Wilson. Wilson could clear a lot of space for Backstrom to do his creating, and it gives Burakovsky a chance to use his speed, being a left wing, to actually accentuate what he did in the playoffs, late in the playoffs, when he got the chance to play with Backstrom and Oshie.
I like them both, but I like them both. But the thing is that I'd rather see Ovechkin with Backstrom or Kuznetsov with Wilson, because when we saw those three together, there was a lot of room being made for either Nicholas Backstrom or Evgeny Kuznetsov to make the plays to create scoring opportunities because you got two big bodies who will clear the path. But also at the same time, Alex Ovechkin was told by the GM or by McClellan that he needs to focus more on the speed game than the power game if he wants to rejuvenate him after not having we would say not a great season.
Well, and also, I mean, to stress, it's not the Johansson hate. So you're at $4.6 million cap hit now. Lars Eller's got 1 year left at 3.3. Johansson's not going to get any more in 2 years when he comes up on unrestricted free agency than the 4.6 he's getting right now. You can take one or the other, either Johansson or Eller, package him with maybe a Chandler Stevenson, maybe a Grubauer, maybe an Orpik, and maybe get some value for one of those guys to address the needs you do have. And whoever's left between Johansson and Eller could be your third-line center, because I contend the best, and I think I made this point at the end of the regular season, Mike, that the best Marcus Johansson has looked 5-on-5 since being a member of the Capitals was not this past season, but the year before when he was the third-line center, and that third line was dominant.
But not only that, but also keep in mind he was in a contract year, which he's going into this season, and it's very well known that whenever players go into contract years, they always play better than after they get their contract.
I think Eller's, after next season, I think Johansson signed a 3-year. But either or. But one or the other, you have guys that can play the same spot. Plus, like you mentioned and made a good point out of, Burakovsky needs to be that second left wing in your top 6 this year, because Ovi's still going to be in your top 6. I mean, the ground beef of a thigh is going to heal up. I think it already has healed up, according to Ovechkin. So after his hobnobbing with Pele and some of the greats in all the sports banquets he's been attending in Russia lately. So,
but Chris, I love you. You're my buddy. But people need to get over it. Tom Wilson's going to be a top 6 guy. The guy was drafted early in the first round for a reason. Is because the guy legitimately has the potential to be the next, Tomas Holmstrom, Milan Lucic, Johan Franzen. This guy can be that if, we guide, or if the coaching staff, not Bernie and I, we can't guide him, but, Barry Trotz and the coaching staff guides him in that right direction, which we have been seeing slowly but surely over the last 3 years since Barry Trotz has taken over the Caps.
You've seen glimpses of it. He's only 23 years old still. He's still got room to grow, which is the amazing thing for a guy who's 6'3", 6'4", and 215, 220 pounds. He still has room to grow his game. And I think if he had, like you said, the chance to get 15, 20 minutes solid ice time with a Kuznetsov or a Backstrom, whichever way you want to interchange the top 6, those numbers are going to be exponentially better, plus being able to take the spot of Justin Williams on that second power play unit, being in that little diamond area, and be able to put himself in front of a goaltender is only going to make Dmitry Orlov's points go up from the power play, Niskanen's and Carlson's.
Can you imagine just the chaos that Wilson will just create in front of that net? Like he's bigger than Williams. Like Williams created chaos, but there's a lot more. I can see a lot more guys wanting to take shots at Wilson in front of that net.
That's why I've been a big proponent, and I'll cover a little more next week, about maybe signing a Brian Boyle. If you did move a Johansson or an Eller, bringing in a Brian Boyle to be what Tampa Bay's made him to be. And at Toronto, he even played well with Toronto. Put him on the fourth line with a couple of young guys, like maybe Nathan Walker, maybe Riley Barber. So you have a speed element with Boyle. Boyle can still win faceoffs. He tortured the Caps in the playoffs. And what Tampa did so well is when that power play was struggling, they just put Brian Boyle out there and told him to stand in front of the net. You got 6'7" in front of a goaltender.
I mean, the Boston Bruins do that with freaking Zdeno Chara because the guy's like 7 feet tall.
They don't do it enough.
So, I mean, but yeah.
But that goes back to what we talk about. Look outside the box at times to see little pieces. Yeah, he might not be the fastest skater. He might be a touch slow, but still, there's other assets to the game that this team needs. Remember, Brian Boyle has been on a team that's made the Stanley Cup Finals out of the Eastern Conference 2 of the last 3 seasons. Not this year, obviously.
Oh, yeah, because we beat him.
Or 2 of the last 4 seasons. He was with Tampa Bay. He got to the Eastern Conference Final with Tampa Bay 2 years ago, and then he went to the Finals with Tampa 3 years ago, and the Rangers the year before that. So.
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's interesting.
But
I mean, you gotta look at some of the other things too. Hey, check your draft tracker real quick. They do blow by.
That's the great thing about the draft.
That's the great thing about the NHL draft on day 2. On day 2, we do rounds 2 through 7 starting at 10 a.m.
Done by
and it's literally done by like 2 p.m. Like, no joke. The draft will be done sooner than you all think for the NHL because they have it on TV, but they really don't go through the hoopla like the NFL and some of the other leagues do.
I'll look at the first round real quick. A lot of these, none of these guys you're really going to know right now, but the Braden Shen trade from Philly to St. Louis
for Yori Laterra
opens up the spot for Nolan Patrick. I mean, Nolan Patrick is, unless he has a terrible camp, is going to be a Philadelphia Flyer next year.
Well, see, the interesting thing is that Braden Shen's a left winger and Yori Laterra is a center. And by trading for a center makes it very interesting. And, I mean, I think there might be more to that. Laterra could be on the move again in Philly. But who knows? We'll see what happens with that.
Well, that's the second Finnish guy that they've traded for. They traded for Filppula at the deadline, too. So maybe they put those guys together. But bringing in a Nolan Patrick to maybe be that guy that replaces Shen, to be he can play center or wing. And if he didn't get hurt last year, he would be no doubt the number 1 pick. But I think Nico Hischier, the number 1 pick by New Jersey, is going to be a guy that Taylor Hall's going to fall in love with.
I feel so bad for Nico going to Jersey. They have a minor league defense out there, and they have Taylor Hall and Corey Schneider, and that's it.
Now, Kyle Palmieri's put up some 30-goal years recently, too. So, I mean, there's a lot to build on.
Let's be brutally honest about this real quick. When you have a minor league defense and you're on a line with Taylor Hall, you're going to get 30 goals. It's going to be a given. Kyle Palmieri was not producing those type of numbers with any other team that he was with. You know, like, they only have the one line, and if Taylor Hall gets injured on that one line, they have no scoring at all. Michael Camilleri was brought in to be scorer. He wasn't scoring.
He constantly got hurt. That's the bad thing.
So New Jersey, you know, people like I find it funny when people go, oh, the Caps protected Tom Wilson, then they put a picture of a dumpster fire. You know, when you look at New Jersey's actual roster, that is the ultimate dumpster fire right there because they don't have a defense. Andy Green is your top defenseman. He would be a 7th defenseman on a Stanley Cup team. Actually, no, correction. He wouldn't even be the 7th defenseman. He'd be in the minor leagues on a Stanley Cup team.
Severson's the guy that's moving up the ranks for them. So they got a bunch of young guys in the pipeline. It's just they haven't gotten to that next level yet. So, well, everyone else has drafted a Finn, Chris. Why not the Caps?
Yeah.
They're 15 picks away, so I think we're going to get that after the show.
Yeah, which ends in like a minute. So,
or 2.
Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening to the Experience Hockey Talk on the WBGR Sports Network. You can follow the show on Twitter at Experience Hockey and Facebook at facebook.com/Experience Hockey Talk. No E at the beginning of Experience, as you can tell by our logo in the back if you're watching on Facebook Live. And, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back next week with Donald Gankenheimer from Just Hockey Cards, and we'll be giving away free tickets to the CSA shows, which will be taking place July 14th through 16th in Chantilly, Virginia. So until next week.
Loaded show next week.
Loaded
Donald
show.
And Free Agent Frenzy. This is a show you need to call in next week. There's the number. Call in next week.
And with that, we will see you on the ice.
This Thursday, June 22nd through Saturday, June 26th.
Now you can call.
Yeah, I know.
You're back.